What's up, everyone?
Hello, welcome to Debrief episode 2. We are up
been
to
a
a little
while.
bit of a late start. Yeah, unfortunately, daylight savings does not exist over here yet, so I was a little bit late in getting up, unfortunately. Which also I think is probably going to affect the NA games coming up as well for us, because I think we're going to be starting those an hour earlier for us over here, which is probably for the best because we start those at 2 a.m. normally.
Yeah, it should probably stay like that for you guys. It's gonna be easier.
I don't know.
You won't go to bed as late.
I'm such a graveyard shift person. I really don't mind. I literally got up like 30 minutes ago, so I'm good. But yeah, so we wanted to come on and talk about. I believe we're going to go over some of the stuff related to what's going into this season, Challenger League qualifiers for the Challenger League, the Pro League teams that are playing, and such.
Yeah, well, we've been busy in the last weeks. I mean, especially you with Challenger League qualifiers to be casted and all that stuff, all that good stuff. Obviously, there was the week after our first podcast. There was the Invitational, which was amazing. And after that was Qualifier 1, Qualifier 2, and pretty much here we are today now.
Yeah, the qualifiers were interesting in that, at least for NA, we had some teams that weren't the usual ones kind of creeping up. I think just because the usual ones already had their spots for the most part. But it was a surprise. Yeah, I mean, there was some teams that I thought were going to make it for sure that just didn't make it because I think they just, got knocked out towards the end and then just couldn't make it back out of the losers bracket.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. It's going to be interesting too to see what happens because teams that are there. I mean, yeah, I'm not super excited for this season now that I think about it. What I want is just Nick and Dan to be there already, and a 5-round offense, 5-round defense. That is what I'm excited about. This just feels to me like a buffer season where things are gonna happen. It's gonna be the good old thing that we know and are comfortable with. But next season is gonna be where I'm gonna be excited to watch.
It's unfortunate we couldn't transition to at least some of the stuff to kind of prepare teams for the 6 month, because once they're in the 6 month, that's a long time to be stuck in a totally different format without a whole lot of preparation. I was hoping we would at least switch to the best of one, and I mean, in some ways, we could have done the operator pick ban, manually, but I guess they just decided it was best to give an extra bit of time to make sure they're fully prepared for the 6 month season. But at least they announced everything and made it clear. So teams have already been prepping and custom games and such.
Yeah, it's I would have loved to get rid of the bracket system immediately and just go for the Robin round. It would have been great because right now with bracket it's just some teams are going to be kicked out in 2 games and it's going to be it for them for this season. And yeah, it's a shame because I mean there's great teams.
It would have been better for us too as the casters because then we get to cast 4 games a night and they're shorter games. So we actually get to a lot of times get done earlier, but get more matches or more teams in there. And I definitely would have preferred that myself. But at least we're going to get to that next season. So that should be good.
Yeah, I mean we're still going to get good games. If I look at the bracket now, the game A will be EG Ronin and Era Space Station for the first day, which is going to be a great game. I'm expecting EG to win fairly easily just because they have experience over Ronin. But Era and Space Station, I'm not sure. Era always proved me wrong in the past, and I think it might happen again, but I want to see Space Station do well.
Yeah, Era have been fine online, but they just not been performing in person. But they've had a lot of shuffles roster-wise, so unless they gel together fast, I think they could get knocked out pretty quick.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I think it's going to go EG for sure. And this bracket, I'm seeing EG getting on top of it.
Yeah, I mean
big unless a big upset happen, I don't think it's
I think everyone's kind of
go to fight.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they proved it last LAN. I think a lot of people, because sometimes, they've been doing well during the seasons and we were always hoping they would do well in LAN and then they hadn't been. I think they definitely finally got it together this last one at Invitational.
But then again, new season, new meta, especially with the new operator we have right now. If a team cannot adjust as fast as another one, it could mean a lot, especially with only 2 games to play before you can potentially get kicked out. It's fast. You need to react fast. You need to be ready. You need to grind just before the season starts and have a clear plan to how you're going to do it. And sometimes it's easier said than done.
Yeah, that's going to be a big wild card for us in terms of predicting who's going to do what. Is that it's not just who is already a good team; it's who's adapting to this potential new meta. I mean, I think everyone way overreacts before a season, and like, oh my god, it's all going to just be this. Nothing's going to work. It's just going to be this, this, this. It's going to be horrible. The season's going to be boring to watch, etc., etc. Which rarely is true, in my opinion. But
boring to watch, I don't know, because what I've heard is the meta is going to be very aggressive. And a very aggressive meta means we're going to have a lot of gunfight and fast gunfight. So interesting to watch. Depends. I think it might be. I think it might be interesting to watch. It's going to be different, that's for sure, if it's as aggressive as people say it will be. Or as people, professional say it will be.
I mean, the big thing is roamers is like, it's going to be harder to roam in the newer meta, just because the combination of operators with Lion makes it really hard to roam successfully. But I don't really see that as a super big thing if you go back to the fundamentals of roaming, which is knowing how to rotate back to site safely. If you stick to those fundamentals and are playing maps where you can do that, where there are rotates back to sites, I don't think it's some unplayable thing. You just can't roam as long as you used to.
Yeah. No, roaming as long is definitely... It's going to be hard. What they're going to have to do is maybe you'll see a little bit more of Castle to delay some stuff. And like, if they have a Lion and they scan early, but you have some very like narrow choke point with Castle or stuff like that, it can help. But anyway, you'll have to fall back to side ASAP.
Yeah, I see Mute Vigil being more of a pick because Vigil's going to make it harder for them to hit you outside of the Lions and Jackals. Yeah. They're going to have to actually drone still to find you. But also, Mute will be still good for drones. And also, in a situation where they're using Lions and Jackals, you want to deny drones as much as possible so that they have to use those and burn those because those are limited charges that they can use. So if you burn those up, not to mention, for example, if you're going to play site and you want to burn up Jackals, track a bunch of footprints around, make them use their Jackal pings on the site players, which are a lot less useful. Get them to burn their Jackals or their Lions earlier in a situation where they don't have them as much or as many of them for the push towards the end when they go to push site or when they go to post plant. I don't think there aren't counters in that sense. There's just not any hard counters.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I have no idea how it's gonna turn out to be. Like I've only played a couple ranked game. And it is obviously strong, but you're not playing against and with a coordinated team. So there's that to keep in mind. Maybe they'll find like crazy ways to overcome it. But anyway, who's going to win? Even if it's OP, the team that's going to win is the team that can use this the better. So it still is the better team who wins, but just a meta that I hope will be interesting to watch. As a spectator, that really is like what you want, something interesting to watch. So hopefully it is. Because what I'm looking for in Rainbow Six and what I think is entertaining is new ideas, new strategy. And if it gets stale like we had with Ying Glass, it kind of become boring fast. And
I don't think Ying Glass is that boring.
Hopefully it won't do the same thing.
Yeah, well,
a bit more diversified.
We didn't actually have a full season for Ying Glass. We just had the qualifier, so I don't know if it really got to the point where it got quote unquote boring because we didn't really have a full season of it. And I think had we had a full season of it, we would have seen it change more over time during those 3 months.
Well, we kind of did add a full season of it because the qualifiers for the Invitational were not qualifiers, but the season of the Invitational was pretty much a season when you look about it. It was just like a condensed one, very short one.
Yeah, I don't think the meta gets to evolve as much though when we don't have.
Yeah, that's true. There's no time to think about it.
That being said, though, I think metas will evolve much faster in the round robin format than they do in this format. Because this bracket format obviously plays less games, therefore the meta changes slower. Because the meta does change as teams review what happened, adapt, change up what they're doing, and you see a lot more because it's a lot more than just scrimming. No. And having a season of full, like tons of matches, not to mention a 6-month season with tons of matches and a full DLC in the middle, the 6-month season will see tons of meta shifts.
But with the bracket system we have right now, you can't really adapt fast because what you're going to do is figure out a couple maps. You don't have time to learn them all, and it's not worth to like learn them all. So what we see is Oregon being played a lot because it's an easy map. We can see Chalet, Clubhouse being played a lot because they're an easy map to figure out with like the new meta and stuff. So that's a reason why we see them a lot. But with the Robin round, I think it's going to be way more diversified and people will come up with like new ideas, good map, especially when we have more time and you're not potentially out of the Pro League in 2 games. That's a lot of stress and gives space to trying new strats a lot more.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, and I mean, I think we're all looking forward to the new format. Just for if nothing else, a lot more matches to watch, even if
sure.
best of one is a struggle for some teams.
That is for sure. And well, now that we talk about it, more games to watch. It's gonna be hard to keep up with everything, especially with ANZ right now that I kind of want to watch. But there's gonna be more game of everything. It's gonna be kind of crazy.
That's why we need SiegeGG, right?
Yeah, right.
Help track
plug. Keep up with the news. Keep up with the.
I'm just using it
of a game.
I'm gonna do a lot of the betting as a way to help me keep up as well with other regions. I might
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I've got
my main focus is usually on NA and EU, and now I want to like clear some times to watch ANZ, and I watch a little bit of LATAM or Brazilian scene. Not as much as NA and EU. EU I watch everything on NAU.
Yeah, I'm hoping
to. I don't have enough time.
Hoping to cast BR6 tonight in English. If I'm still waiting for information on a Cleve feed, there's a chance I might be doing that tonight. And if so, that's a good way to kind of preview how some of the Latin American teams are playing at the moment. Even though it's not Pro League, it's close enough. But they've got a really weird format that should be interesting for that. See a tournament trying out kind of a different format for how the brackets work.
Well, if people say the meta is going to be as aggressive as they say it is, maybe it's time for the Brazilian to take it home. Maybe it's going to be the season for them to do it.
Oh God, yeah, like, Lion plus Brazilian style?
It's like, no, I don't want to live in this world. It's kind of crazy. They're going to be nuts. If that's the case and it is as aggressive as they say, they're going to be scary. And if they can bring it home, I think that's the season to do it.
Well, if any team can execute on that 5 seconds of wall hacking, it's going to be Shift W region.
Oh boy, yes. It's going to be scary. So,
we'll see, though. I mean, I don't like to fear or anticipate a season because, I think part of the exciting part about this game is how often teams and players surprise you with what they do, which is what keeps it really interesting. So I'm actually looking forward to teams just doing stuff no one was prepared for yet, because teams are going to be spending so much time looking for holes in other things, looking for ways to play these new operators outside of just the obvious ways to do it, or ways to counter them outside the obvious. So I think the first week might be a little more just like half of the matches might be kind of crazy and weird, and the other half might be kind of what we expect. But then week 2, teams are going to be more adjusted. Should be interesting.
But especially with big orgs coming to the scene and just giving the player more time to entirely focus on the game, I think it's going to evolve way faster and be much better quality gameplay wise.
Yeah, I hope so. But nonetheless, either way, it's a lot of good teams involved. And that's the important thing, is that there's these, unfortunately, it's pretty much the same teams most of the time. We don't actually get a lot of change-ups in Pro League, partially because of the format and partially because good teams tend to stay good, because when you're a team that's good already and you're doing well, that's more incentive to stick together and continue doing well versus teams that are not doing as well, feeling like they need roster changes as a way to make up for things that aren't working for them, which isn't always the way to do it, but that tends to be something you're going to see a lot more sometimes among the lower ranks, whereas the top teams tend to just change out 1 or 2 people. In fact, I saw a rumor yesterday, I don't know if it's true or not, that CLG and was it
CLG and Rogue, I think.
Rogue, yeah, switching out players.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Pro League is tomorrow, but just a quick reminder.
I don't know if I think there's a 24-hour roster lock too that they have to do.
Oh, yeah, right. So 24 hours will be it's 2 p.m. for NA right now. So yeah, 6 hours.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try
and do it if it's true.
Yeah, I don't know. The brackets, I don't think the brackets are up for the official Pro League matches. So in theory, the ESL plays should be roster locked within 24 hours before. So I would hope if I go check the ESL play brackets and the teams just before, within 24 hours, it should be updated, hopefully. Oh,
And
NA shuffles.
NA shuffles. It's never over till the first game is played. It's never.
But like I've said before, the reason you're going to see, besides just other potential reasons, Latin America and NA shuffle more is because they all speak the same language.
Yeah. Oh, well,
same with ANZ. Yeah, you have a lot more people to switch between, whereas regions like EU are really language locked and run into a lot of problems. Although I think they should really learn from the fact that Penta is a MUT team, and they are the most successful EU team. So there is something to be said about, hey, all of you should just probably learn how to speak better English and focus on speaking universal language among your team, whether that be. I mean, there's a lot of Finnish players, so I guess there's the nice thing about that is that ENCE has helped bring Finnish players into the scene, because 2 of the Finnish players on Penta are both from ENCE Zissou originally, so it's like almost like that team brings Finnish players into the scene, and then they can spread out. So at least that region's language is growing, but I doubt they're speaking Finnish on Penta. Like maybe occasionally Zunis and Chate speak it to each other.
I think it's fair to assume it's English.
Yeah, and so. That's a big thing. It's a big advantage that NA and Latin America have, is being able to do that. ANZ have that as well, but ANZ is a smaller region compared to NA and Latin America. Yeah. So feels bad for a lot of the Asian subregions as well that are not necessarily going to have a lot of language fluency as well. So it's a big thing to consider, because this is such a communication heavy game. It's not a game where you can just be like, whatever, I'll just do my fragging. I don't need to really talk.
Oh no, it's definitely communication and information above everything. This is Rainbow Six. You don't need to be a good aimer to be a professional player. It's communication and just game knowledge in general, most of the time. Because there's a lot of gunfight that happens that if you play it well, you're going to be like behind or on the side of the enemy. He's not going to be aiming straight at you like it's the case in... Not every time in CSGO, but CSGO is very like narrow corridor, and it's more gunfight like front 1-to-1.
Yeah.
When Rainbow Six, you can get killed from like 360 degrees, or like around you and above and below. It's game knowledge. Game knowledge.
Well, although Lion takes a little bit of language communication out of it sometimes, because everyone can see it. I think a lot of us would definitely be interested in seeing Lion where it only shows to Lion, so he has to communicate all that stuff. But, Jackal kind of broke the ground in terms of sharing the communication with everyone. I think the reason I say that is because operators before, like Pulse and IQ, set the precedent that it's just that one person and they have to communicate with pings and stuff. So that was like the original mold of the game, was to say if someone gets intel, it's just that operator and they have to communicate it. So I think it's in some ways unfortunate they've gone away from that a little bit in terms of having Jackal and Lion freely share that information automatically with players. But I think it does help in solo ranked queuing and casual, basically outside of Pro League. Those kinds of things do help, because communication is definitely a lot bigger problem in those areas.
I was talking with Zyronix yesterday, and he brought up a fairly good point that I think would be a good idea or a good way to nerf operators like Lion is they have an ability that relies on information and gives information to everyone. What if you keep the Gadget like it is right now, but you remove his drone? He doesn't have a drone to drone. Like, at the beginning of the round, he's not going to be able to do anything. He's not going to be able to drone for anyone. So the only way to give information is going to be to use his ability.
That should be interesting. That would be interesting. I mean, I definitely wish we could. I guess you could try stuff like that if you wanted to have it. Like, it scrims, like you just tell him don't use your drone. Like, he has to leave his drone at the spawn and prep phase, and no deploying drone.
Or maybe having only one drone, but like playing with the number of drones he has, I thought was a good idea. Maybe not a good. I don't know about good, but a neat idea.
I would say that's something we have done because of Twitch. Like, originally Twitch had normal drones, and they switched that later on. Because they switched it, because originally she had drones that were like a regular drone as well, but now it's just shock drones. So I guess there are some precedent for messing with operator drones. I still think it'd be fun if you could shoot down Lion's drone as well, just because like you see it up there. I think it's interesting that they actually spent the time to put the drone to show up out there. And what's interesting about that is now Valkyrie can find out if he exists before seeing him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if a lot of people think about that in terms of, like, normally you can't scout the attacking operators outside of Valcam's looking at spawns. Now you don't have to look at spawn to know if Lion's in play, although I think Lion's going to be a high pick rate anyways. But it's interesting to think that you could potentially look out. Yeah. And I kind of wonder, I haven't tested this, but if there's skylights on a map, like for example, there's skylights on Chalet and some other maps, would you be able to actually see before prep phase ends that Lion is in play and prep for that? That's something new.
I think you would. But if you could shoot it down, that would be a problem because the round
would
be started in.
But that is something new and different that I just realized, is that this is the first time you can actually, outside of Twitch's shock drones, I suppose, that you can identify an attacking operator during prep phase.
Yeah, you're right. That's interesting.
Gotta love those small changes, right? Like those small subtle things, because that's the stuff that like the really good teams pick up on, right? Is those small subtle things. Like for example, we talked past about like Canadians' ability to like read people's shoes as like a anecdote that is illustrative of those kinds of ideas. Yeah, I know, and the story's gone around, made the rounds, but that's just a symbolic idea of like what a good team does is they find those small details that give them that advantage edge early in the match, in the rounds, so they can have some idea how to adapt and adjust and call audibles, which is something that these more subtle small things are able to help these teams do.
And speaking of which, you talk about the shoes story. Brings me to I've been saying it for a while, and now it's like coming more and more up to date with the discussion and things that needs to change for Rainbow Six. But the cosmetic, the uniforms,
yeah, I have a feeling you're gonna say that.
They need to do something about it, because now you just, hey, I killed Hibana. Oh no, wait, it was someone else, because they have
it was someone else in a yellow suit
in the exact same uniform. They need to change something. And what I was proposing like a while back is it would be cool if the professional player could have their own uniform for the team. But then I think it was Blast who was making some of these uniform, and some of these uniform were darker than other ones. Some were bright, some were dark. And that gives a good advantage. It's not a game like Overwatch where it doesn't matter all that much. In Rainbow Six, it really does matter.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe just, default uniform, and you replace the flag with the team logo or something like that. It's subtle. It's still there. You still have it. There are going to be like 3 people, maybe 5 or 6 if you count a coach, people who have this uniform. So it's like legit. And it would be good for comp. It would be good for comp because, everything default, you know exactly who you're firing at.
Yeah, I think what we've proposed a lot of times, at least amongst ourselves, and talked about, is just the simple idea, and we've told the Ubisoft this as well, because I think this is the best approach to find a balance between business model and competitive scene, is to simply make it so that when you use the Pro League HUD settings in custom game, which they do, which for those of you who are unfamiliar, that does stuff like hide the kill feed, or not the kill feed, but the points feed, and a lot of other HUD stuff. Yeah, so that you get less intel from stuff you do in the game. And you just make it so that if that setting is on, that players only see default skins and things like that, but the observer still can see the custom skins and all that. The idea being custom skins and whatnot, you do want those shown to an audience so that that audience is then incentivized to make those purchases. For example, that's part of what team charms are for as well, and stuff like that. So you do want to show those, but you don't necessarily want to make those part of competitive. So you just make it so the spectator can see those, but that the
players
can't. That still does mess with us as casters a little bit, determining, because there are times I literally am telling what's going on because I recognize the silhouettes of the outlines. I can tell what operator is where and what they're doing without tags or things like that, because you can recognize that silhouette outline. And you throw custom skins like the Outbreak ones in, and that becomes a little more difficult to do. So it does still hurt us a little bit as casters, but as a compromise, I think that is like absolutely the best compromise that I've heard in terms of suggestions. I don't know if they're going to do anything or what they'll do, but I do hope something along those lines is implemented. I mean, it wasn't as big an issue before the Outbreak skins, but the Outbreak skins have really highlighted, appropriately highlighted in yellow, the issue.
Yeah, they need to do something about it, because it's getting more and more a problem, especially with like this. There's silly skin and headgears that we did not have before, and now we have them, and a lot of them are very similar to each other. So it really is hard to tell them apart.
what would be interesting too is if you implemented that, because the observer would still see it, you could get players doing things like team colors or other kinds of ideas, or kind of make themselves look funny or fun or do whatever, and that would show up to the audience so that player could have their own unique character to them, in the sense of like people recognizing that player and a certain flair that he does. Like let's say he's Buck running that weird like lumberjack looking outfit, or whatever it is, but then not have to have that may be a competitive choice. Like he doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm not going to choose that outfit because it's affecting me at a competitive level. I can just choose that outfit.
I'm gonna play Twitch Elite skin because she's invisible. Or drone is anyway.
Yeah, right. Or like when Rook was like invisible to glasses, with the Elite skin. That was like there for a minute. That was fun.
That was the best. But yeah, they need to do something about it.
Yeah.
I know they still want to use Pro League as a platform to sell some of these uniforms and skins and all that good stuff, but it's kind of getting to the point where it's interfering a little bit with competition itself in some point. It's not major. You don't really lose a game because of it, but it's fun to have something consistent.
If they were smart, they would have put a couple of skins in Outbreak that somehow gave you an advantage. So that way people would chase all the packs and buy them all. Like the pay to win, right? There's some Elite skins in there or something that give you an advantage, and you'd see a lot more money made. It's sucky, but I come from working on CCGs, so I'm pretty accustomed to that business model.
Yeah, but I think we went full circle on this subject. There's just not a lot more we can say, really. It's just hopefully they'll do something about it, but it doesn't seem like it's a priority right now, and obviously I don't think it is.
There's a lot of other priorities, so I'm not too concerned about it, though. I don't think you're going to see full comps in like the Outbreak year during the season.
Yeah. And moving on, Challenger League on EU is going to be interesting, at least to me, because I don't know. It's stuck in there now. They made it. It was harder than I thought it would be, but they made it. And are you there? You froze for a second.
Nice. Gotta love that.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I don't know. They made it on the second qualifiers, right?
Who did?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought you were saying you didn't know. What a stupid name. I'm sorry, Meepy. You need to get it together. You're never going to be a professional team if you don't get a goddamn decent name. When you say the name, I don't know if you're talking about a team or I don't know.
I mean, it was obvious in my head. Come on.
But I don't know. Meepy needs to get it together. Like, he can't hold the team together, and I can't speak to why because I don't know what the personal synergy is like with teams and stuff. But he seems to really be struggling to kind of get his team to stick together and not have all this trouble. Like, I mean, they're in Challenger League now, but if they can't get their act together this season, they're gonna have to wait 6 months again for another chance to get in. So
you don't want to miss the bus. You don't want to miss that bus.
I mean, obviously, if he can get a decent roster together, I think there's a good chance that they'll see them at least make it to relegations potentially in Challenger League. But Challenger League EU is much harder in a lot of ways than Challenger League NA. Challenger League NA has typically not been as hyper competitive as EU's has.
Well, so it's pretty much top 4 team, and the bottom 4 team just switch every season. You see a new team the bottom 4 is just a shuffle of teams and players that come together, disband, come back together next season.
Yeah. NA has some decent, interesting teams in there, but it's still pretty much like a top 4 kind of thing.
Well, Reckless did well in the qualifiers. They almost made it to the Invitational, which was kind of crazy.
Now known as Beast Coast.
Yeah, now they're on the Beast Coast, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can keep up with that. I know they also changed a player. I think it was around the Invitational.
Breezy got dropped.
Right? Yeah. And hopefully that'll work for them, because they showed big time on that qualifiers. They showed up big time, and it's looking great for them for this Challenger League season. And if they can keep up with that, they might even make it to Pro League for the 6th month. And as soon as you make it to the Pro League for next season, I mean, you're there for 6 months, which is awesome.
Well, they got to have a huge incentive to do that, because basically right now with the amount of orgs getting involved, if you basically make it into Pro League, you're likely to get a big org. And you have to think of it, it's a cyclic thing. It's an upward cycle, because if you get a big org, then you get a lot more support. You get a lot more incentive to practice, to stick together as a team, to build up synergy, to be able to actually get a salary, so you don't have to like deal with work, real life issues as much. So it becomes an upward spiral of success breeding success in terms of that. But because it's still 8 teams of also having that, you still have to remain very competitive. But it is difficult then for other Challenger League teams to sneak their way in. So Challenger League really has to play to like the top of their ability to try and make it to break in, because that, especially now with 6-month seasons, they especially have to be like really aggressive and on top of that to get in, because once you do, it's a much easier.
And the Challenger League is on a weird spot right now, where Pro League is 6 months, but Challenger League is only 3 months still.
Yeah, and that's going to be going for next season, as far as I know. So
yeah, and that's just 3 months of like nothing at all. It's just you hope that CCS and all these small league just pick it up and gives you something interesting to compete in, because Challenger League is just on a weird spot right now.
If I was CCS in those other leagues, I'd be like excited about that extra 3 months.
For these leagues, it's amazing. It's like the best opportunity they can have ever.
Yeah. We'll see how it shakes down though, but it definitely will be a case of those teams really needing to stay practiced for the season. I mean, right now they have a parallel season because they're both 3 months. But basically after this Challenger League season, there's going to be 3 months of dead time for all those teams. So it's not going to be easy. I mean, hopefully there'll be some good tournaments run. Personally, if nothing's going on, I'll probably even run a tournament just so there's something going on. But it's a case of like, it's definitely a difficult battle. Challenger League is in kind of a weird spot right now. It's not going to be easy. And Challenger League brackets aren't even up yet. I don't even think the 8 teams are official yet. So it is running a little bit last minute this season. Because I checked the brackets right before we went live, and there is none as far as I see, like in terms of at least showing up on the page. So
I'm guilty of not checking that a whole lot. Not Challenger League. We have enough Pro League game now that it's hard to just keep up with Challenger League too.
Right. Well, yeah, imagine for me, because I'm trying to be involved in both, and like, so I definitely have to. I have a lot of documents spread everywhere, trying to keep track of it. Stuff like SiegeGG actually does really help me too, because like there's a lot of you guys on SiegeGG, the team that kind of like does a lot of stuff like the stats guy and things like, and people getting rumors or research that just like really helps me stay on top of it, because it's a lot of freaking information.
All the infographics that came out, one for the Invitational and one that came out yesterday about the pick rate of operators. And the win rate of, like, depending on the pick rate and all that stuff is, Ohm made stats that they keep track of, and it's kind of amazing. I haven't had a lot of time right now to look into it, but I will definitely go in depth with it and try to find neat little stats and tendencies in teams that way, because there's a lot of it. I don't think they showed right now what it is, but there's a lot of stats about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited for once the draft stuff happens.
Yeah,
because it'll be just because like the engagement with the stats is so different when you actually have the ability to like build your fantasy teams and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm a big fan of like virtual betting being a way of like helping gamify like spectating sports, because I personally have found that sort of thing actually can drive my interest up in physical sports, which personally I find really dull. But having the ability to have like some kind of involvement with them, I even started doing. There's a stupid fantasy movie league thing that like Cinemark or something started doing for the movies. That's similar to what like Hollywood Stock Exchange used to do, or probably still does. But I don't know. I just find that stuff really interesting. And like, I'm not saying all this to plug SiegeGG stuff. This is all stuff that I'm participating in SiegeGG because I think it's really cool to have that kind of stuff, and I hope that kind of thing will grow, because it gives those of you watching this like something else to talk about and work on during the season as well, like besides just watching the games, to kind of really start to think in depth about the different players, the team compositions, what these teams can and can't do, and like what players are actually working and improving over time on their specific roles.
Yeah, I mean, with the pick and ban, it's just going to be insane.
So there was a
it's going to be a lot of stats for the coach to
for me. That's going to be way too much work, especially with the 6th pick and all that.
It'll be a full-time job.
Oh my God. So there was a question from chat, and they were kind of trying to make sure we didn't miss it. Hybrid had asked about Pwn leaving Room Factory and what that will do. I think Room Factory, they did just recently win the Russian Cup. I'm not sure who the lineup was, but they did also lose Red Groove. And so I think between losing those two players, that puts Room Factory in kind of a tough spot, because chances are they probably speak Russian on the team, which means, again, their composition, their potential pool of players is a bit limited. So that might be, between losing those two, a big problem for them this season.
I can say I've been keeping a lot of interest recently, like small roster change on teams like that, especially in EU. Been very busy with life right now. I'm trying to fix a lot of stuff, but Room Factory did it well. So it's kind of sad to see them like spreading apart a little bit like that. But hopefully it won't affect them that much. But usually a roster change takes some time. It takes some time to just get back on track and just get team chemistry working out.
Yeah. Well, Ranger says they actually speak English. So hopefully that's the case. As I said earlier, that offers a lot more flexibility, and I would hate to see them be just pigeonholed as a Russian-only team. Yeah. I do believe they had one non-Russian. I think was maybe Croatian or something before. So that's obviously some flexibility there, but there is a fun of national pride. It is fun to have a team that is kind of representing a specific country, but at the same time, that limits you. Not to say Russia is a small country, to say the least, though. They are pretty big, but we'll see. I mean, it's nice to see some of these other Eastern European teams, like the Polish team, being back in there, Patakalipsa being involved in terms of at least Challenger League again, and seeing where they can go. I know there's being in Poland here with the production crew and stuff. They're always super cheering for the Polish teams to make it, and it'll be interesting to see if Russia can keep it together this Challenger League season. It's not going to be easy battle, because as we know, the Challenger League teams are always like in EU just super playing hard.
EU is very competitive in Challenger League. I am amazed by it. I wish NA was on that level.
Oh no, it was Red Groove that was Swedish. Sorry, thanks for the correction on that. Again, so many freaking teams to keep track of in here, and you throw Challenger League into the mix. It's just
that's a lot. I mean, it's fair to assume if you go on EU Pro League, you just say maybe they're French. You have a good chance of like getting it right.
I think they wanted us.
The French, let me check it real quick.
There's a lot of French.
There's a lot of French team, and they do good. Yeah. They obviously do something good.
I feel like they don't make it to the finals as much, though. They don't, like, with as big as the French community is, outside of Youngtis back in the day, like making it, we're not seeing a lot of French make it all the way. So I'm not sure if that's just due to internal issues or what, but it's like these players have been around for a long time. I mean, Supremacy put up a pretty good fight, so that was like one of the closer ones, because they've been around for a long time and they haven't changed their composition, like in terms of player rosters. And so I think that's been a strength for them, is they are one of the few French teams that isn't constantly shuffling around, and that's why you see them make it a little bit farther. But
I had high hopes for Supremacy at the Invitational, and they definitely delivered.
Yeah, I think they for sure delivered
up there, like in the finals. But I was hoping they do well, and they did.
Yeah, they were up against tough competition now. So I think as long as they stick around like that, I'd really like to see where they make it to.
I mean, I look at like the bracket A of EU, and it's basically
I think they wanted us to go through those.
French team.
I think they wanted us to go through the actual rosters a little bit too, and kind of touch on, because not everyone's like up to date on who's playing and whatnot in terms of all the teams. So like looking at EU, for example, we have Penta, Vitality, one of the other French orgs who has changed players around quite a bit though. Oplon, who used to be Lucky 7, who before that was why is this slipping my mind right now? Ares before that. Millennium, who is another French team that is the org is stuck around, but the players have changed out. Digital Chaos, which is interesting because they're kind of technically I Don't Know. They took I Don't Know's spot, but they aren't the same. It's not associated with Meepy because it was the 3 Swedish that took on Red Groove. So that makes sense. They took on another Swede. And then so they're now a Digital Chaos instead of whatever you would have called them before. So that's a nice big org that stepped in as well. Supremacy, who we were just talking about, another French team. Ents, the Finnish team we were talking about earlier, and then One Up Esport, the German guys. So we've got an interesting mix here. We actually have quite a few French teams in here, and we've got 2 German orgs, although one of them is the only one that actually has German players on it. And then just some random ones, like a mostly Swedish team and mostly Finnish. So it's a good mix.
if you look at bracket A, it's basically Penta and 3 French team. Vitality,
Yeah,
Team Upland, and Millennium.
be interesting.
Yeah, and there's always Supremacy who's going to be around for the other bracket, but I mean, one of the French team is still going to make it to the playoffs, like 100% guaranteed.
Well, most of these teams, though, keep in mind, EU's gone through a lot of roster changes, so it's hard to say how a lot of these teams are going to do, because even changing one person can really change how your team plays, unfortunately, because this is such a team-oriented game. Like, it matters a lot more. You can't just swap out fraggers or swap out support players and expect to get the same results, because it's just not the same. You don't just have people just doing their job. They need to really mesh as a team.
Yeah, well, when you do it, you need to have the long-term game in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think big orgs being involved will help slow down a lot of roster shuffles. But that being said, we're still seeing some. So it's not like it's going to stop it, but I think there's more incentive now to stick with a team. And we're starting to see orgs get a little more competitive with each other in terms of like competing to do that, which means, so the upside of that is that means better contracts for the players, which means even more incentive to stick around. So the more competitive it gets for the orgs, the more we should hopefully see rosters start to gel and have like a lot more stability. But that being said, there's still a lot of ego involved and team dynamics that are like behind the scenes you don't see that are going to really affect teams' ability to play together. And you're also going to see players that just aren't performing get dropped, which, I mean, it sucks for those players, but, and we never really get the full 100% story on why a player is dropped or not dropped. So it's always hard to tell, because it's like, you know, one person will say they were dropped, the other person, or I mean, will say that they left, then the other people will say that they dropped, and it's always hard to be sure like why roster changes are done, because you get two sides.
Well, the players are like playing with each other almost 7 days a week, so obviously there's going to be some friction sometimes, and you won't like hear the whole story about it. So yeah, it happens. People are fast to judge on these situations where a player is dropped or something like that, but there's usually a reason behind it, and it's not just I'm gonna toss a coin and just pick one and he's kicked or no. It's much more complicated than that.
Yeah, we did a draft season, right? So free agents are like this big thing, and I don't know. We do have a lot of the same players kind of moving around between teams and stuff like that, that are kind of acting sort of as free agents a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually we'll get to that point, right, where there's draft season and stuff. I mean, chances are probably Overwatch League will get there first, just because of the way they're organized is a little more similar to sports, and you have a lot of people being shuffled around between some of those teams, mostly for Toxicity getting banned and stuff like that. But
for the meme, getting fined for meme,
it'll be interesting to see if we get more of that ourselves, right? Because Overwatch League has had a lot of issues right now with toxic players getting fined and kicked and made to set positions and stuff like that. And now that there's this big push on making sure that there's less toxicity in the game, maybe that was something we'll see move to this game as well. I mean, the only time we had a big incident about it was the issue with Blacksing and Skies. That one time was the only big Republic thing, and they've since like really stepped up being a lot more professional.
I mean, there was a lot of noise around this story too. Like a lot of people were saying a lot of things about what happened and like all the facts around it, and it's really unclear what really happened, at least to me, because I don't know, I haven't kept track of everything people said about that whole story. But since then, I mean, obviously I think it's working well. It's way better. That was the first really event about that kind of situation with toxicity and just unprofessional behavior. But since then, I think it's fair to say they stepped it up.
Well, speaking of toxic players and stuff, let's take a look at NA. I'm just kidding. No, the lineup is mostly the same teams for this. Like, we didn't really get a lot of new teams or any kind of change-ups in terms of the North America teams. We've got Era, Evil Genius, Ronin, Space Station Gaming, which is one of the big changes in terms of orgs.
Yep.
CLG, which is technically
SK,
new to this.
SK.
Well, yeah, I was just
that's
about
a big change too for Flipside.
CLG.
They've been Flipside ever since year 1.
Yeah,
they just finally switched to something like SK Gaming.
Yeah, since I believe season 2 of year 1, the Vin
I
Flip
think so.
side. So that's
That was like the very
probably one of the
first
longest.
big org to come in the
That
scene.
might be the longest running org in Pro League,
I think it might be.
because Sisu changed to ENCE a while ago. So yeah, they might have just finally broken that record.
I
So
think
now
they
someone
did.
else is gonna have to try and run longer. So, but that's good for them. Like SK, I have high hopes for them this season. I hope
Same.
they can really, because I don't know, they've struggled. They're an interesting team. Like they're a team that I don't feel like always performs to the best of their ability, in terms of like really making it there. But they're a team that I do also like that they are creative in what they do. They try to make it more interesting in terms of shifting around like their strats, playing off sites, things like that, having a lot of pocket strats. So I hope they do well this season, but unfortunately the format doesn't support that as well, because it's still the old format, which we have so many good teams in now. Chances are they could get knocked out. CLG though has been struggling a little bit.
Yeah, they've been struggling a little bit. And as a reminder, SK Gaming play on the second week against Birdu, and it's going to be Rogue CLG. Or is it tomorrow? No, it's the second week, right? Group B.
I have to check. I have it all in documents, because trying to memorize this all would just,
Yeah, that's
I would probably kill myself after a while of trying to keep all that in my head.
All the roster change, all
the
games.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned the other two teams as well, Rogue and Bird University. Bird University, I know there's rumors of them getting an org, and I hope they do, because, well, I don't really care for the name, but hopefully they pick up an org before this. I'm not sure if Bird University is even any kind of org or just a weird, silly name they came up with.
I think that's a weird, silly name.
Yeah. Don't you miss Biggity Boppity Boo, right?
Biggity Boop Bop.
E3. Biggity Boo Bop.
Biggity Boop Bop. That was good. That was great. If you're going to get a meme team, Biggity Boop Bop was great. Better than I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So we'll see. That there's so many good players and so many good teams in it this time. Like, I mean, the ones that I feel like are going to maybe struggle a little bit more are Bird University. Like, I think they're doing pretty decent. I might do probably better than Era. But Space Station and Ronin are going to have a little bit of a hard fight as well. Although Space Station, formerly Infamy, were a pretty good team. I just don't know if they still have like really.
Space Station was most wanted.
But they were originally Infamy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Before that.
Tripping like and taking nade. Honestly, it's hard to keep track.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay, there's NA have roster change and org change.
Yeah.
That's
killing me.
It's killing me.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the one probably in the weakest position right now in NA is going to be Era, unfortunately. They even have to play Snake play the first round, our first match, because of that. Like they aren't even going to be playing their full lineup the first day, because they have to bring in Benji.
Because they got Benji, right?
I wouldn't say Benji's like completely unknown, but he has been kind of like Jnon, where he's kind of been this sort of fill spot. He hasn't been super consistently on a team.
He's been around.
He's been around, like even going back to like Orgless and stuff like that. He's been on teams. He just hasn't really stuck around.
Yeah.
For very long. He's always been like this very short-term fill. So we'll see. I don't know. I worry for that team, kind of getting it together. But we'll see. Latin America have also changed things up quite a bit as well. So we'll see. Their roster is, and we'll see a preview of it tonight with BR6,
right?
Which I recommend people tune into to kind of get some idea. I'm not sure which teams are playing.
That's their own league, like their separate thing. Pro league, right?
I imagine the teams are going to be mostly the same.
Yeah, they usually are.
There's some big orgs involved, which is nice. Like a lot of orgs picking up in
Latin
America. There was already some before, but
Boot Camp, Team 1, and we haven't seen played under that org, I don't think yet. And obviously FaZe Clan is still there, Team Liquid.
Red Canids as well.
Yep. Red Canids, you're right.
Not sure how they pronounce that, Canids or Canids. But and then we have some of the orgs that were shown off at the actual invitational, though. A lot of these teams, some of them not doing as well as we would have expected. Like Liquid didn't do that great. They were getting crushed.
I thought Brazilian would at least get to the final at the invitational, but apparently EU and NA managed to go through again.
Yeah.
Even the semifinal was full NA. So they lost in quarterfinal for that side of the bracket. But with the, like we said early, with the aggressive style that we think is coming to the scene, maybe the Brazilian will perform a little bit better, because they tend to be more aggressive and they have very good aim.
Yeah, well, I mean, teams are going to have to adjust to the new operators as well, and I think that will affect, like we were saying earlier, Brazilian style play, which should be interesting. I mean, a lot of teams have really adjusted over time away from that whole shift W meta that we like to joke about. Like they're not as crazy like that, but they're still very aggressive. But they do a lot more droning now, and I got to give them credit for their meta shifting over time as well.
Yeah.
We also can't not mention APAC have been interesting in terms of what we saw, especially Invitational.
Well,
it's unfortunate about Ainz, though.
Ainz, yeah. The whole Ainz thing.
Yeah. Mind Freak also did have change-ups as well.
Well, they changed only one, but I think Mind Freak, with the experience they got at the Invitational, are going to be dominating the scene.
Yeah, we heard they did pretty well in the last cup they were in. Like they were definitely performing. And it's been talked about before. Yeah,
10-1 the final.
Teams learned so much from those LAN events.
And just the bond you create with other players is enough to give you a little bit of a hedge over anyone else.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely take that back, and hopefully that will make ANZ a better region altogether.
Hopefully it will. Because, I mean, I was not even seeing them on the main stage, like any team from ANZ. And they're just ahead of what I thought they would be at this point, and that's just great. It's just great because more competition in the scene can only be better for everyone.
Yeah, well, this game definitely has been stepping it up. It's still harder for those regions to really be able to practice and like help like kind of bootstrap that region up.
Yeah.
So we will always have APAC potentially lagging a little bit, unfortunately, just due to their inability to scrim because of internet issues and regional stuff, and the fact that like half of them are on islands. That's always going to hurt them a little bit, and it's unfortunate. So we have to give them some credit for whatever accomplishments they're able to make with those handicaps. Not like as in like, oh, poor APAC, but as in like, good job APAC for, despite your handicaps in terms of being ready for stuff, actually making it and doing quite well in things like Invitational. So I think hopefully that brings some confidence back to the region, which encourages them to even more so like step it up. Who knows? Maybe this game will get big enough that people are getting flown between regions and like actually getting moved to gaming houses like to other countries and stuff because of how big orgs get and like, hey, we want to pull this guy from APAC region over to NA region. And I believe it's whatever region you're living in is like what region you can be part of. So I would actually imagine someday we'll see teams poaching people from other regions.
I don't think that that didn't happen yet. And one day maybe it will. And that's gonna be interesting when it happens, finally.
I'm so goddamn hyped about this year in terms of like how much this game's growing so fast. Like you've seen, like we actually broke into the Steam top charts like for the for peak players, which was like, wow, I've been waiting for a while for that, but we finally did it with I mean, say what you will about Outbreak and whether or not like it was a lot of people complain about, was this a good use of the game's time or the dev team's time? But look at the record number of players we have playing now in terms of like, it had an impact for sure. And I'm so glad to see like so many people coming to this game. I mean, I feel bad for other games like CSGO that are eventually let's be honest, they're gonna lose players to this game.
I think they will. I think it's fair to assume they will. And speaking of like being hyped about this year, I just can't wait about this season to be over and just move on to Robin round and pick and ban and 5 rounds on the same side, and then you switch. This is going to be good because this season it really is just a buffer that they had to put in order to like get everything right, and it's just it really feels that way. It's just, can we just be like done with it and just move on? Thank you.
Right? Yeah, like I think we're all on that same page. It's like we wish it would started, but this is like there's a lot of change ups in terms of like what's going on this year outside of just that alone. I mean, that does mean also we're leading into no more down seasons. There's there is a winter season now, essentially like winter into spring, and so there won't be any downtime between seasons to like practice for the invitationals and stuff like that. It'll be straight up like just leading one or the other. But that also brings me to the other LAN events we have, which is now we've got the other major, the Paris will be involved. So that's going to be a big thing coming part way. But also the dream hacks that have been announced.
The dream hacks,
that's a big deal.
I think they announced 3 dream hacks right now. It's Valencia. There's one in Texas, I think.
Yeah, the Austin one, which should be good. I'm excited about that. I'm hoping to do that one because, well, NA.
Yeah, NA.
And the nice thing is that
next season final is in NA.
Yeah, so that'll be 2 NA finals. Probably, I would imagine if you kind of look forward in terms of timing, I would imagine the final for NA for the season would probably be towards the end of May. Just doing the math, like because it's usually a couple weeks after the season ends.
Last year in Poland, it was I think we traveled with Flipside around the 16th of May.
Yeah, I would just say like mathematically, it should be around the end of May. Usually. So, but that means like 2 NA lands that are going to be really close to each other because the other one's at the beginning of June. So that means within a month we're going to have 2 NA lands. So that's going to be like super exciting because we haven't had an NA LAN since freaking Xbox Season 2.
Right. So
that's kind of like that's gonna be nice. I mean, it's nice for me. Like I like being able to go back to NA and kind of represent NA a little bit. I mean, okay, so actually, let me correct myself. Obviously, so people aren't hating on this. Technically, Invitational counts as an NA LAN, but I'm talking about like proper North America as we think of it. So obviously, Hyde already on me about it. Yes, Hyde, and we know
the Invitational is still like once a year. And it's basically the only one I can go if I don't want to pay like $2,000 just to cross the ocean with the shitty like airplane fees we have in Canada.
Yeah, flights are definitely hard for this too, and I think that travel does affect sometimes where they have to plan for because ESL has to pay for flying all these players and teams out, and it's also difficult with some regions because you have to keep in mind Brazil, for example, has issues going to some regions more than others because of visas. So they definitely count.
Got that kind of problem for the Invitational, even though they were like invited as a, well, not a community vote, but whatever they want to call it for a show match. Some player had problem of visas, and it was basically just a PUC team playing against the Chinese.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see where the actual NA event gets placed, and then where the finals for the November season ends up as well.
It's probably going to be around California or something like that.
I hope the NA final will be in California, but I feel like it probably won't be unless it's LA.
There's the ESL studio in LA, right?
Yeah, the Burbank one. So unless it's there, then it'll probably be somewhere else. I don't know if they really want to do it there in terms of, I don't know, maybe this is competing too much with like Overwatch League over there, taking over LA basically. We'll see though. Nonetheless, I mean, I hope it is because I'm from California, so for me, like I actually get to go home and then just drive to LA. Like I don't even have to fly because LA is like 6 hours from.
Might be a good excuse for me to go there too.
Yeah, it's fun. I get to visit more people.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be. I mean, just more LAN is great. Just the DreamHack announcement, even though it's like. Only 3 so far. It's better. Like at this point on NA, I'm gonna take everything we can, even if it's like only one more LAN a year. It's still worth it. Even for some Challenger League team too. That's a good way to get some experience on LAN if you can make it.
Well, we'll definitely have a variety of them, and I mean, obviously, speaking of NA being Canada included as well, we have stuff like Northern Arena and stuff going on as well. So there are some other lands that we tend to forget about because they're a little bit smaller, but nonetheless, like it's interesting because we see, for example, Beast Coast picked up one of the players they played with in Northern Arena.
Yeah, they did.
I'm imagining partially because of that. No, I mean Waffles.
Yeah, no, I mean Foxay played with Waffles at the Northern Arena. So
yeah, I think that affected it. So like Northern Arena is in a way already affecting Challenger League and potentially Pro League.
And for those who don't know, the Northern Arena was Canadian-only circuit for Rainbow Six. So only Canadian could play it.
So a lot of people probably didn't see it.
Yeah, but it was I think it was a test for them. And I got to speak with some of the people that managed that league, and obviously it was a test for them, but they were quite happy with the result of it. And even the venue they got for their LAN finals, which was a day before the playoff or the stage at the Invitational stage sequence at the Invitational, it was full. It was a small venue, but it was still full, and they were quite happy about it. And I am pretty sure they're gonna like make it a thing that is seasonal Rainbow Six Canadian circuit.
I wish they would just make it full NA. Like if they want to be included in NA, they should include us in NA. Yeah. Come on now.
I mean, the more
just because
the
there's
more the
not
merrier.
there's only so many good Canadian players. Like
Yeah.
you don't even have enough for full roster shuffles.
No, you don't.
It's
I
like
mean, a lot of the good
put together
Canadian
an
are
all-star team.
already in mixed up Canadian USA team, so
Yeah.
I mean, especially with like the 6-month season, if they're in Pro League, they're not gonna like try to play in the
Yeah,
Northern
exactly.
Arena.
So I would like to see them just make it more NA. You know, for people that can make it there. Like if people can come from like East Coast US or whatever, like just let them. But you know, nonetheless, it's either way though. The more lands we have, just
The better.
overall, the better for every
More.
region. So yeah, and I'm glad to see those other dream hacks as well. I'm excited about how many there are. There's already, for those of you who don't know, that was announced. There was DreamHack Austin,
Yep.
which was the beginning of June. There's DreamHack Spain Valencia, which I don't remember exactly where that fell. I think it was September potentially, and then DreamHack Winter is in Sweden, and so that will be awesome as well. Like I just some great stuff, and then also I imagine there's another DreamHack I think that'll be in January as well. So
Right.
it's good for exposure as well to the game. It's going to bring a lot more players in from those people that go to those DreamHack events for other games that will see this game there as well. So
I just wish
it's
we
going
had
to really grow the
DreamHack
game.
Montreal.
You guys had invitationals. You guys are good. I think you had the biggest event you're going to get for a while.
The game is being made in Montreal. Why not get like DreamHack Montreal? Come on.
Give it time. It'll get there, guaranteed. Like this game is like not short-term planning. It is very long-term planning.
And if you just look at early year 2, right after the invitational, and look at where we are right now, it's just insane. I never thought we would be this far in a little bit over a year.
I feel good about investing in this game early, like because you get nervous because like you put a lot of time into a game, and then you've seen games like, for example, Lawbreakers is probably the biggest example of a game that seems great on paper and is a good game. You play in the beta and you're like, this game's going to be awesome, and then just nosedives immediately on release. And playing the Siege beta, you could definitely tell there was something here. And then that first season, it was a big struggle for this game. Like it was really like the first year, I think was hard for the dev team, hard on the Pro League team. Like I've been here casting this since middle of season 2, year 1. And it was always just like a big question mark. I'm always like, looking at the door, making sure I'm not having to like go do something else because you were never sure if this was going to be successful. And Ubisoft was new to this as well. So it was always a big gamble.
It's their very first game that is aimed to be competitive and last long. Because usually what you see is a game like Assassin's Creed or Far Cry. They just make the game in 3 years, ship it, support it for like maybe a couple months, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah, I feel like the closest experience they had was another Rainbow Six game, Vegas 2, which had a little bit of esports to it, but was definitely not like this at all. So, I mean, but you got to give them credit for investing early in this as well, because to basically release the game in December and start a Pro League in like February or March, like a few months later, is a big gamble. But if you watch some of their early stuff they did for the press and stuff like that during the early seasons, where they were showing off the prototypes and the internal competitions they would run, and the fact that they had big tournaments early on before Pro League to kind of show off the game. Like I remember before the game came out in August, there was the big show off of the spectator mode. They had that big tournament. That was awesome to watch, to see like how the spectator mode and stuff would be. But
I think when the game released, or right before the game released, there was like
the IEM,
a kind of party or something, and the competition was playing T-Hunt. And I don't know exactly how they did it, but you could get some like sort of scores by playing T-Hunt, and like at some point there was a winner of like that T-Hunt tournament. So it was kind of weird at first, and now that you look at it with all that we got from Pro League and all that stuff, you're like, this is kind of weird and not really representative of the game. But yeah, we've come a long way, and I think
it's funny because
they learned a lot.
Originally, the devs thought hostage mode would be the competitive mode too, which is funny to think back on. And it's like, what?
Hostage? And I mean, with map rework right now, I think they're keeping in mind the bomb situation to rework the map more than trying to please people who play Biohazard and Hostage, which is completely fine by me.
Maybe, and you got to think back on that too. Maybe that's why some of the maps are designed the way they are, is that some of the other modes were more of a focus originally. So that means like going back to the old maps like Clubhouse, the bomb sites weren't as much of a concern because, there was these few hostage or secure area sites, which are single sites.
You go
to and bomb.
And you go like hostage and basement, you grab it, and then you need to come out. So maybe that kind of makes sense as a thing, but I'm glad they just make the switch, rework the map,
Yeah.
make it viable for bomb, and
I'm
let's forget
really
Biohazard and hostage are a thing. All right.
Yeah, let's forget. I'm really gonna be excited though for when that Clubhouse one comes out.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish it was already out, like, because unfortunately we're gonna see more Clubhouse this season, especially since we're still in best of 3, not best of 1.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna see Clubhouse. So
and Oregon and Chile because they're easier map to figure out.
And it's really gonna be hard to play Clubhouse this season because of Lion. Because anytime you try and roam now, it's like you're done. Though, like.
You're done.
It's so hard because you throw in a Jackal, a Lion, and drones, and like roaming is just non-existent on Clubhouse. Then, if it was even a thing,
it's already
before.
hard. It's already hard without Lion. Now it's just you don't want it. You're just gonna like hunker down and hope for the best.
I do really hope that you still consider making Vigil immune to Lion though, and because I think Vigil has kind of become this surprise one in terms of like people didn't think it would be played as much as it has been, and Invitational showed the viability.
Yeah.
And now I think he's going to be even more viable, especially as people said with Ella being nerfed, more room for him to be in there.
Yeah. I mean, we'll know tomorrow. We'll have a glimpse of what team came up to with the new operator, or if they're going to be played at all. I think they will, but I mean, there's still a slight chance people don't use them, if you want to believe. And I mean, tomorrow, in about 24... plus 5 hours maybe. So yeah.
I'm not even gonna guess. I've already made one time zone mistake today.
Yeah. Yeah, Matt's live is never a good idea. So maybe like 29, 26 hours ish. Between that time span, we should know what people do, and we'll be on the first map.
So
interesting game. Ronan, EG, I think are going to be the first to play.
Yeah, I think me and Milos are doing the first match, so that should be fun.
You?
I think so. I mean, it's I don't know. It's never really. We just kind of decide amongst ourselves, so we'll see. But I never really mind. Personally, I just like doing any match because like I found sometimes when I'm like, oh, I'll take the lesser match, it'll turn out to be somehow the better match of the two because it's not always how you expect it. So I think it's almost always every match is always interesting, especially now with the level of competitiveness between the teams.
It is. Well, it's been an hour and 10 minutes. I don't know if you want a final word before
for next week.
The Pro League starts, or maybe even just final word on it. Pretty much. I'm bad with ending words.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we've already hit on it a lot in terms of what to anticipate for tomorrow being interesting.
Yeah.
I would say like definitely keep an open mind going into this tomorrow because things rarely go as you expect, and as this game evolves, as qualifiers for Invitational, for example, proved, it's getting less and less predictable in terms of what to expect. So I think it's going to be very exciting. I hope the SiegeGG betting is up for tomorrow because I would like to place my bets as well because I'm excited to see like who does what and where it goes. But unfortunately, we won't have as many matches tomorrow. So again, it'll just be kind of back. We do have Latin America has moved to Wednesday, I believe.
Oh, is
so
it?
just keep that in mind. Tuesday is not a thing. No. So for everyone watching next week, or this coming week here, keep in mind that Tuesday is not a thing for that anymore. And that also, I think the first Challenger League play day has moved to Wednesday instead of Monday for this week only for EU because of the patch, something like that. So I'm not entirely, or not the patch, but I mean the timing of the operators and stuff like. I'm not entirely sure, but so keep in mind you may not be able to catch
the time
EU Monday for Challenger League.
New operators.
Yeah, something like that. So I'm not 100% sure on that because I don't know. Even the schedules are fully announced for Challenger League yet. As I said, the brackets aren't up. So just keep that in mind. But nonetheless, hopefully we'll have Challenger League on the R6CL channel for those who want to tune into that. I actually would like to try and convince them to play the VODs on the main channel during downtime or something like that because, we have the Rainbow Six channel and there's occasionally downtime for it. And it doesn't require the studio to be able to replay VODs, I would think. So we'll see if that's something we can get some things to do to try and increase attention on Challenger League, which I'm not 100% sure, but I think it might be myself and Rams casting the first Challenger League for NA.
Okay.
We'll see, though. I have a working PC now. I haven't tested streaming on this, but this is a better one than my stupid laptop. So I think the potential for me casting it higher than 30 FPS might be a thing. It's not even, it might be even Rams' PC doing it. So look forward to that. I will also tweet out, when we know on that. So make sure to follow myself as well as Helbee on Twitter. and follow SiegeGG and everyone else that's relevant. So you can keep on tabs on stuff.
We just on a side note, we had a like rough start podcast wise because a lot of stuff happened between the first first try at podcast, the first debrief, and this one. Now it should be more regular. We should be able to make it every.
Hopefully, we can do it around this time. Because it actually works pretty good for me at this time.
It's also going to be available on YouTube if you cannot be there on live because it's still the weekend. Maybe you have other stuff to do.
Yeah,
I'm going to put it on YouTube
live if they can. Make sure to just follow and whatnot for the SiegeGG Twitch channel so you can watch this live. So, but yeah, check it out and follow and subscribe on YouTube or whatever as well to make sure you know. Who knows? Maybe then we can edit out all the flubs, make it more professional. But yeah, as we get the hang of this, hopefully we'll be able to do it more regularly, as long as there's no problems doing so. And we look forward to seeing everyone on the next one as well. And if you have questions, pop in here. We'll try and we can only watch the chat so much while we're talking because we don't have like something else to be doing. We're literally having to pay attention to each other as well. So keep that in mind. There's
a lot of stuff to figure out. We're still learning. It still is our first try at getting all the things right. And I guess we can probably make a section on if you want to get on the Discord, the SiegeGG Discord, a place where you can make feedback and things we can get better and things we can improve on.
If you guys can actually, if there's a guest you're interested in seeing, make sure to tweet out tagging both us and the guest because, well, that will also help plug the podcast. But it's a good way to kind of make suggestions towards who you guys might like to see on here. And then since they're getting tagged, maybe they'll be more inclined to come on if they see a lot of people doing that. Yep. So, we could try and get some other people on as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, with Pro League now that is also started, we'll obviously have some games to talk about, which is going to be interesting. And I'd like to try to grab some, extract some stats from these games now that we have like a good amount of stats and good track record on it.
Absolutely. Make sure you pay attention to the stats on here.
Yep.
So, well, with that being said, I think we will peace out. Enjoy the rest of our Sunday. You guys all should do the same. Tune into the BR6. I'm not sure which Twitch that's on. I'll probably tweet out about it as well, just to kind of give people a link to that when that's live. Whether I'm casting it or not, you might be able to at least see it as in Portuguese, if nothing else. But yeah, look forward to seeing everyone next weekend.
All right. Bye-bye.